Welcome back, everybody, to Monster Hunter World. We have reached the point where we are going to do the same thing we did last episode, which is fight more monsters that you haven't seen yet. We're going to continue to click on join a quest instead of actually starting a new quest, because we have no brains, apparently. We have not fought a Juraditis, or however pronounce the name. We'll be doing that now. He is another easy monster. It shouldn't take us too long to defeat. And then we will, like I said before, hunt some other monsters, and then eventually we're going to get around to hunting the Raytheon. You notice we're starting to not land in our camp anymore, which is fine. Not 100% sure if that is a random chance thing, that's a design thing at this point in the game, because we've yet to defeat the Pink Rathian. It's disrupting our landings. I don't know, I'm speculating. But essentially, I've come to the conclusion, at least in the short term, I'm going to have to eat every time before we leave on a mission, even though it's going to take me longer between cuts, between recordings, whatever you want to call it, to do, because I can't keep accidentally landing right next to the monster or in the middle of nowhere when in reality I want to land at the camp and eat. However, pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember, it's been a little while. Pretty sure I could just do a quick travel back to my main camp. Land. Oh no, I landed in the wrong area. Bring up the map. Land. Do a quick travel to the camp itself. Today's story is an old story from over Christmas that I don't think I've told you yet. I had a bottle of single malt scotch I bought for my sister's wedding, and I had about a half a bottle left of it, and I decided to bring it home over Christmas. I was going to share it with my siblings, which I kind of did. But the problem was that when I opened the bottle and started drinking from it again, I got a very, very honey taste out of it. And I don't know if it's because that's the way that scotch was designed, or for some reason honey got in there, unbeknownst to me. I don't remember there being honey notes. I remember there being sweet notes in there, but I don't remember it being overly honey tasting sweet. So, yeah, I don't know what happened to that. I don't know if it aged out or distilled, or I highly doubt it. I mean, it's not like I was leaving it in anything really ridiculous, but I don't know. I did notice the very honey floral notes when I drank it with my brother at my sister's wedding. However, I very much noticed it this time around in December. So, I'm not sure, like I said, if that has anything to do with its aging or the fact that that's just the way it was, and I didn't notice it at first. I'm not really a sweet, I don't like sweet in my alcohol. Used to drink in the bourbon that have, cherry, vanilla, had some peated stuff too. Not really a big fan of eating dirt, but I guess that's a thing that you can grow in, or not grow into. It's an acquired taste that, might make more sense in one thing versus another, or, might be more delicately balanced in this whiskey or this bourbon versus another. Hard to say. So he is, much like his lower rank counterpart, not that difficult to defeat. I did put on some boots that'll help me move in the water a little bit. So that's going to help me fight this guy, keep me from slowing down. But he's not terribly difficult either. I don't know if he's going to swim upstream. I've actually been able to defeat him usually before he swims upstream, but with the extra health, he may actually be doing that. He may actually get, like I said, upstream. We'll see. So anyways, just be a lot of me hitting this guy more than anything. Watch my health, make sure I don't pass out, that sort of thing. There it is. So he did swim upstream, which is normal. It normally goes upstream to that center area. Just realized I didn't have a way to capture him, so need to do that. Ugh, excuse me. There's a question. Unrelated to what I was originally talking about. Just not the right time, you will know when it's the right time. You can have this. Here, have a max potion. That's a great item to be getting for free. I'll try to make a long story short. There is the basis of some philosophy, some ways of looking at humanity is based under the assumption that either A, man is a naturally rational, good creature, and man is a emotional evil creature. Now, you can be an emotionally good creature too, by the way, or a psychopath, intellectual. But again, I'm sort of phrasing it in this way because yeah, well, I'm kind of in my mind now. I'm just sort of defeating my own purpose. But is man naturally human, naturally a good person, or is man naturally evil? That's sort of the question that is posed. And some work off the premise that man is naturally good and is taught evil, and some people believe that man is evil. All right, he didn't land on my trap for some reason. I need him to land on this trap. And sort of the basis of whether or not man is good or man is evil attributes to everything else. You know, for instance, man is naturally good, but he is prone to evil because of his nature of wanting what he considers or she considers the best thing for them. And then man is naturally evil, as in man is naturally selfish, and he only through society is he able to learn discipline and become good. Um, and I really don't know what the answer to that is. I mean, if you were to say, as a child, are you born good or evil? You're not really born good or evil. You're born a child, and a child is at its very basics is naturally selfish, because baby is not able to take care of itself, so it's reliant on its mother. So in a way, it early on is taught to be selfish. It is selfish because it has to be in order to survive. It can't go out and get its own food. Again, it's reliant on the mother to feed it, reliant on, you know, the parent, the mother, whoever, to take care of it. And, you know, eventually as it gets older and more mature, you can teach it, you know, right from wrong. You can teach it, obviously, how to use a toilet. I just realized the guy came in and saying, okay, whatever. Well, he gets all the bonuses for doing little to nothing. Good for him. Have three fucking free pulls, you jackass. Anyways. The long term. Is man, again, this is that blank slate thing where is man born with a blank slate, or does he come with innate knowledge? And I don't know. It's hard to say. I imagine for the most part we are born with some innate attributes that are required for our survival. The ability to suckle, you know, things that if the baby does not suckle or doesn't have the natural ability, you know, doesn't have the natural instinct to eat and cry and other things, that it probably won't survive, you know. But in a way, is man capable of you know, I mean, did you start out naturally good and then you become evil? Or do you start out naturally evil and you become good? And I know I'm being sort of vague with this because I'm not really explaining what my concept of good and evil is, other than to say that when one person is very self-motivated, that tends to be good for them, but it's usually at the detriment of others, you know? Or conversely, you can be a very good person, be a very generous person, if you will, understanding, but that usually is at the detriment of yourself, because others are not naturally, but we're all concerned with our own sense of survival. Like, for instance, I go to work to make money so that I can live in this house that I have and eat food and be comfortable. And at the same time, my business needs a worker, maybe not specifically me. They need workers to do things, to build the product, to take care of the finances, to do the paperwork, the billing, the to make sure that everything's in order and make sure that orders are getting out on time, and etc. You know, and in a way, if there was a way to guarantee that those things could be done automatically with little to no effort, building stuff without human input, processing invoices, processing receipts, processing, making long-term plans. If these things could be done away, you could do away with the human element. You business would say you do away with the human element because it means larger profits for less money. Or you could charge the customer less and still make the same percentage profit, which can be very advantageous, particularly when, say, you're competing with other people, other businesses, and you could leave your car at the same price as it was, but the cars now cost half as much or quarter as much. And all of a sudden your margin goes from 2%, 5%, 10% to 20% or 40%. You know? I don't know. That's how I view good and evil. I believe that man working for himself is good for himself, but man working for the betterment of his community is a far better good. Because if you have 100 people and they're all working and they're all making a wage that allows them to live comfortably, I think that's better than having a community where 80% are comfortable and 20% have trouble living and they end up becoming criminals or what have you. Or you have some that are better off than others, but in turn that means that because of that some people have to be worse off. And I understand when I talk about this, I think of the ultra wealthy. I don't think about the normal business owner, the business, the small business owner that, he or she is doing the best they can and they're trying to make ends meet. But at the end of the day, their livelihood is based off of the excess profits that business makes. So if the business does not make excess profit, they generally won't make as much money or any money. Some weird fringe cases. I get that. So if you want to say, if you make $30,000 a year running a business, but you want to make $50,000, you basically pay those people under you less money. Or you look at them and you say, okay, this person is key to my business. I have to keep them. So I'll pay them a little bit more than everybody else because I think that they're key to running my business, But it's hard. There are many levels to this. It's not just the community that needs to watch out for the community, but it's also the individual being able to understand that there is some there's some joy in being happy with what you're able to afford. And I mean in terms of like, okay, this is the amount of money that you need to make to live, okay? And if you're married, then you're doubling your income. Okay, great. But in a way, a lot of those people may also get married, or not, not just get married, but have children. So their wages are going towards taking care of the child, which again, the child can't. I'll argue the child shouldn't have to contribute to the family. You chose to have a child. There's a responsibility that's gonna basically, the child is going to start out with nothing. It's going to be wholly reliant on you, and as it gets older, it'll be able to help you more. but it'll also in some ways require more to keep it going. You know, a baby requires a lot: diapers, formula, very expensive shit. As the child gets older, it starts to eat regular food, which is less expensive than formula. It'll be able to go to the bathroom and the toilet, which is obviously big saving. But as the child gets older and needs new clothes, it'll start to eat more, etc. And obviously, it's education, etc. is going to cost money. And I'm not really sure what the right answer here is, because when we talk about wages, you know that if I run a daycare center, for instance, okay, and I hire 3 people, I have to not only pay myself but pay them, okay. And I understand sort of the way we do it in America is, well, I own the daycare center, so I need to reap profit based on what my workers are doing, okay? But I'm not necessarily working at the daycare center, but I'm reaping the profits because I own the center itself. But I don't know, there's something sickening about that when you have the capital and you're just saying, well, this is just an investment for me, you know? When you know that people need childcare, you know that in order for them to pay for the childcare, the people who are watching your children need to be reimbursed. And based on state, federal law, you need to have so many adults per insert age here. For instance, for newborns, I think you have to have 1 person for every 3 newborns or something like that. But when you get up to, say, 10-year-olds, you can have 1 supervisor for 10 or 20 kids, because they're more self-reliant. I don't know. I understand no matter where you go in the world, there are going to be people that are going to be richer than you. They're going to take advantage of the system. But I really don't like how when the poor take advantage of the systems that are created by the government to help them out, they're villainized. Whereas when the rich take advantage of policies or help to pay to set policies that benefit them, so they retain more money and they take advantage of the system, that's not vilified. That's just being smart. We all want to make more money. We all want to pay less tax. We all want to do X, Y, Z. But when you stay at home and contribute nothing to the economy, that's evil. But when you stay at home and contribute nothing to the economy, but you have lots of money and you're the one who puts up the capital for it, well, that's just smart business. And I got a little distracted there when I started off with what is good and what is evil, and is man's natural nature good or evil, or is it determined based on their upbringing, sort of thing. But I very much feel that, a person, whether they're born, but people are naturally born good and learn evil, or they're born naturally evil and become good through discipline, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't really matter. It's sort of like, where do you end up, If everyone has the same upbringing, obviously that's not possible. But, what do you learn from that? Okay, I make, my parents bring home $100,000 combined a year. My parents bring home $20,000 or $50,000 a year combined, or I rely on food stamps, or I don't rely on food stamps. What do I learn from that? Am I a better person for being on food stamps? Am I a worse person for being on food stamps? I'm more upset with why are you on food stamps? If you're working and you're contributing to society, why are you on food stamps? Because you don't make enough money. And why don't you make enough money? I mean, if you are single and you're working, you should be able to make enough money to feed and house yourself, okay? At the very least, okay? And in addition to that, even if you don't, even after that, you should be able to afford whatever is considered basic necessity. So if your work is down the road, 5 blocks down the road, and you want to walk, that's your choice. If your work's 5 miles away, however, walking is possible, but much more difficult. You know, and if your work is 15 minutes away via the highway, driving 60 miles an hour,